Chapter 18. Undertone of Iniquity. The crowd gathered at the altar of origin turned to each other to discuss what seemed to be a scandalous revelation. Hella looked back towards Scatter, wide-eyed. "What's happening, Scatter?" she asked, trembling. "Child, don't be scared," he replied in his typical vernacular. "Something amazing was just confirmed. I knew your flame was special from the first time I felt it erupt in the understreet, but special doesn't start to describe what it is." "How? Special how, Scatter? Because I'm 13 now? Why did Adun make a big deal out of that?" "Well, sorta, yeah. You know what? Instead of me explaining it, though, I'm willing to bet Adun here'll make it his recitation for tonight for your sake. Isn't that right, old watcher?" he asked, nudging Adun with his elbow. Yes, quite. What better tale to tell on such an occasion?" Adun replied, then straightened up to address the congregation. "Children of Grom, be still your minds, for we have all borne witness to the testimony of the flame. Know now that neither status nor lineage can preclude nor expropriate any of Grom's children from her holy will for them. Hear now, Hela of Kull, lowborn of the unforgotten, stolen of Grom, requits to us hope. Hope for all Thutans, be they born of the Hullhorn or born of the Cold." That last line seemed directed at Orund, who jumped to his feet, huffed, and then walked away. "To remind those of Grom's children still in doubt, I, Arunt's watcher of the unbroken binds, will regale you once more with recitations of pertinent antiquity." Scatter sat down at this point, passed the food dish to Hela, and stretched out in anticipation. "Boy, how I have missed this," he whispered. The men who had played the drums earlier grabbed their mallets once more to begin a soft, slow beat. The fire of the altar lowered, adding a somber, almost sacred air to the circle. Adun's loose-fit attire became shrouded in dramatic shadow as the dull pulse of the congregation's flames illuminated his features to the beat of the drums. He closed his eyes and began to hum in a low, guttural vibration. The two drummers emulated the hum, amplifying its ominous tone. Then, suddenly, Adun stopped humming as his eyes snapped open, shining a brilliant red. His whole demeanor and gestures became dramatic, as if he was starting into a traditional dance. "O ye gathered, be thy hearts observant, for the recitation of ages begins in edification of thy being." Chills washed over Hela's entire body that had nothing to do with the frigid night air. Something about the old world power of Adun's words filled her with reverence. He continued, "Hearken once more to the legend of glorious Thut, harbinger and mighty fire starter of old, protector of the unvanquished flame, leader of love, high archon of light, and the first avatar of righteous Grom." "First avatar?" Hela blinked several times. "He called me an avatar." "May we extol his valor through generations," Adun continued, to which the congregation replied, "Grom's love. As recited by the purity of the unbroken binds of yore, it is known that upon his 13th year mark, Thut, chosen of Grom, became ascendant among all his kin. Filled of her furious flame, a boy of tender youth struck forth to render atonement for the iniquities wrought by Sol's heathenish reigns." "They think I'm like Thut?" Hela realized as she gasped. Coloring, she threw her hands over her mouth. "Verily, Thut, holy avatar of Grom, forsook the sacred peaks of our Hullhorn to tread upon our enemies' abyssal plains, going forth to meet their wretched sorcerers, those blasphemous chosen of abominable soul. But lo, among them was the false god's chosen vassal, warlord of terrible soul, and merciless conduit of vile aspirite, the murderous ray of Epol." The beat of the drums changed. They became faster, louder, almost foreshadowing what was to come. "Hark!" shouted Adun to the flare of the altar behind him. "The battle of love, Grom's virtuous confrontation against heinous soul commences. Judgment for his many transgressions and those of his villainous dark shaman." Adun became animated, leaping to his left and right, pointing and gazing into the distance as if watching the great battle take place in front of him. "Death! Death! Blue and violent, bloody, gruesome, Asperite slaughter! The massacre! A massacre of the valiant! The indomitable fire starters of Grom, torn asunder! Visceral atrocities! Horror-laden fields! Beloved of Grom, rended in twain!" The weight of his words landed like blows upon Hela's ears. She could feel their emotion, the fear of those ancient Thutan warriors. She had lived it, watched her kin shredded with malice for daring to stand against Soul's inhumanity. Tears streamed down her cheeks, not of sadness, but of broiling fury. Scatter put his hand on her shoulder. "Hold on to it, mighty Hela," he whispered. "Retain this feeling. It's not yours. It's the wrath of Grom for her fallen, and it's right for you to feel it." "Grom, oh mother of flame, why hast thou abandoned we, your children?" Adun screamed, dropping to his knees in forlorn lamentation. "Be thou our deliverer from this, our darkest hour." As Adun pleaded, the flame on the altar dropped to a single, small, flickering lick, the dull red light of the congregation now brighter than it. Adun stood, walking with heavy, slow steps towards the nigh-extinguished leaf of light. "But, grievous though his sorrow," Adun said in a hushed, reverent tone, "Grom, fervent matron of love, had not forgotten Thut, her worthy avatar." The fire of the altar started to glow. She arose in him. It grew larger. The voice of Grom speaking through his lips. "No! I do not forget my kin, nor are they forsaken!" The flame rose high. "Hear my voice, degenerate servants of Soul! Flee! Flee in abject terror, Ray the heretic! Or bear thee witness to the fathomless love harbored in mine bosom for the slain of Grom, for mine own children, ye murderer of murderers!" The altar now blasted forth a vibrant, steady inferno of raging fire. "And lo, by the righteous, vengeful love of Grom, Thut, her chosen, radiated blinding white! A beacon and a living testament to the pure, unvanquished flame of mighty Grom! Nary a ray it touched could withstand its majesty. Filled with her most holy light, they were set aflame, immolated where they stood as atonement for their apostasy. Nay, even terrible Ray was himself felled by the unbridled love of our blessed matron." The flame of the altar roared, then returned to its original size as the drummers ceased their beat in time. Adun stood in front of the fire, facing those in attendance with outstretched arms. "And so it came to pass on that day, the back of the Rayan Empire broke at the hands of a 13-year-old boy, the first chosen avatar of Grom, blessed and remembered in eternal, unbroken binds." At that, Adun bowed, and the people responded, "Grom's love!" The villagers stood and mingled around the fire of the altar after Adun's recitation. There was much to discuss. Senna, Hela, and Farah remained on the bench while they did, accompanied only by Fald, who hadn't left his spot the whole time. The hour was getting late, and, though the altar remained lit, the mountain air carried an unfamiliar chill to the visitors. Hela held Senna close beneath her right arm to share her warmth. Fald, seemingly unfazed by the cold, noticed Farah beginning to shiver beside him. "You're cold," he stated matter-of-factly. Farah reached her arm out in an attempt to motion, "No, I'm fine." But by the time her arm had extended, Fald had taken his jacket off and slid it over her shoulders. "There, I only wear it to look attractive anyways," he proclaimed, draping her under the warmth of his outerwear. "Don't hate me now that you can see how hideous I am without it." Hilla saw her smile. It looked half embarrassed and half thankful. Nothing about Fald's demeanor seemed sly or self-absorbed, which made his joke all the more funny. Meanwhile, Scatter was holding court with at least a dozen interested parties. Interested in his adventure to Epole, in his harrowing escape, but mostly in this new anointed avatar he had returned with, Hela of Kull. "It's been happening for over a year now," Scatter stated to the gathered. "In the Kulls that surround the city itself, numerous culled Thutans have naturally come upon their inner flames. Without anyone to guide them, I'm telling you, things are changing. Grom herself is shifting the balance in that evil place. I mean, just look. From them, she's raised a new avatar. From the cold. I mean, the destruction of that abomination of a city is coming soon. And little Hela here, well, she'll be leading the charge." Hela didn't know how she felt about everything Adun and Scatter had told her. She had said she would do anything to help Scatter free her people, but was she really the chosen avatar of a god? She watched Scatter carry on from her seat, while Adun suddenly sat down beside her. "Child, you must have many questions. You look, dare I say, overwhelmed?" He smiled. Yes, I really am, if I'm honest," she replied in a timid voice. "I've only been able to learn a little bit about our people's history and about Grom herself. So much was lost over the 800 years my people've been separated. Not everything, but a lot." "Please, child, allow me to answer your questions. It's both my pleasure and my duty as a watcher." "Okay, thank you. I only want to know one thing right now. What is an avatar and what am I expected to do as one?" "Of course," Adun beamed. "My dear girl, you must forgive an old man his enthusiasm. You see, there have only been 3 avatars born of the Hullhorn in the last 150 generations. Oh my, indeed, even I, a watcher of the unbroken binds, somewhat relegated it to legend and lore. So you must understand my exuberance in bearing witness to this most sacred occurrence." Hela didn't want to douse Adun's obvious excitement, but his answer wasn't satisfying. "I get that, I do, but please, can you explain to me what it even is? Because I'm not Thut. I don't want you to all get excited about something I just can't be." "Oh dear, young Hela, you misunderstand. That's my fault. Oh, I'm getting carried away without explaining things for you." He cleared his throat and started over. "You see, Thut was the first avatar of Grom. At 13 years of age, he became worthy, suitable is a better word. He became suitable for Grom to use him as her proxy, as her vessel. That's what an avatar is. Does that make sense?" Hela frowned. "I don't know. Do you mean Grom? Actually Grom herself can come into me because I'm her avatar?" "Yes, dear one, exactly right." He patted her arm. "Now, it's true that Grom can transmit portions of her magnificent power through we who wield the flame as conduits. But it's different for each of her children. You see, we are each endowed with certain limits. Some of us can transmit more of her potency, others less. The most powerful of Thutan warriors are blessed in that regard, but an avatar, as far as the legend tells it, they are imbued in their 13th year with the capacity to house the fullness of Grom's pure love. Tonight's beacon of unity demonstrated your capability to retain the entire combined power of every Thutan flame in attendance." Adun grabbed up both of Hela's hands as his eyes began to tear up. "Do you see, dear child? It doesn't matter if you think you can be as Thut was. All Thut was capable of Grom to make herself manifest through. She, a holy matron, will use you as she sees fit for her sake and for the sake of her mighty will." Hela took a moment to absorb what the elder had explained. It was still so much to accept. She had always pictured Thut as some full-grown, mighty, indomitable warrior, never as a 13-year-old boy whom a god could use as her weapon. She thought of one more question for Adun on the topic. Adun, what happened to Thut after they taught us it was called the Battle of Tragedy. He smiled. We of the Flame call it the Battle of Love. But yes, quite. Now, you see, he seemed to be struggling through his memories of archaic lore. The stories from those times are very old, my dear. It isn't easy to know the details surrounding such pivotal moments, but what is known and evidenced through tradition is that the heirs of Thut conquered the remainder of the Rayan peoples in the centuries that followed. A single life in that time span is not an easy thing to single out, except during the important moments that they may have participated in. Though I'm sure he pressed forward after victory in the Battle of Love to begin our people's inevitable conquest, my dear. Okay, thank you, Adun. I'm just worried I don't know enough to be a good avatar of Grom. Do you know about the other avatars after Thut? Something that would help me? Hela asked. Before Adun could answer her, Scatter slapped him invitingly on the shoulder and sat down next to him. If it weren't for the faith of our dear watcher here, he said halfway through a thought, I and the other Willen wouldn't even have ventured into Epol. Oh, no, isn't that right, old friend? Though the question was directed at Adun, a different, familiar voice answered Scatter from the edge of the town circle. Tell us more about the other Willing, O triumphant fire starter. A chill shot down Hela's spine. She knew that voice, but never would have expected it. Tauren! The massive Thutan warrior, flanked by a diminutive Karda, strode in atop his glowing hull-hound, stealing everyone's attention. Tell all of Arunt of the 3 warriors you abandoned to the persecution of Epol as you effected your escape, the imposing giant growled as he dismounted. Tauren closed the distance between him and Scatter, now standing within arm's reach before the altar. Tauren! Karda! Scatter replied with jubilation. What a glorious night this is! I had heard rumors from Stant that 2 or more of our party were also returning. Why didn't you contact us through the Eye? Why didn't we contact you? Tauren retorted. I should ask you the same question, brave leader of the action group. You say you heard rumors that 2 of us had broken out behind you, and yet here we reunite for the first time without a single attempt to reach out in between. Karda spoke up at this point. Tauren made the decision not to contact you since our escape. That's why I, myself, didn't. I believe he wanted to test your leadership. Tauren placed a hand on Karda's chest and shoved him out of the way, effectively shutting him out of the conversation without words. A sly look came over Scatter's grinning face. Oh, really? You wanted to test my leadership, did you? He asked rhetorically. It's not enough that I used the Eye to give you all final orders as I escorted the children of Cull 19 out of enslavement. Not even close, Scatter Firestarter, Tauren barked in return. Your spontaneous decision to rain destruction upon your call led to a city-wide persecution of every living Thutan in Epol. Grom only knows how many they slew to uncover Karda and I, forcing our hand, not to mention Falk, whom we haven't been able to contact at all. He's either underground, captured, or killed. We don't know. Scatter stiffened. Falk is the most capable warrior among you, Tauren. If you 2 got away and he didn't, well, that would have been the luckiest day the Rayans ever had. Nonetheless, we will pray to Grom for his safe return, as she's provided for the rest of us. Don't you get pious on me, Scatter. I'm not some ignorant culled you can charm into obedience. Judging by your actions in the Dark City over the past 2 years, you won't lose a single blink of sleep over Falk's death. Scatter's eyes narrowed. Be wary the words that slip your tongue in this place, Tauren. No, I don't think I will, he spat back in response. I've remained silent long enough while hiding in the culls, watching it happen. In fact, here we are before the sacred altar of origin, Scatter, where truth is spoken for all to hear. I know what I sensed that day of your escape. I don't know who you fooled into doing it this time, but some poor cold was surely sacrificed by your hands yet again. Farah, Hela, and Senna all looked at Scatter upon hearing that last remark. What does he mean, Scatter? Is he talking about Godin? Hela asked in a small voice. Scatter answered her while responding directly to Torin. A valiant child of Grom gave his life to save his kin. He was no fool, and he did so bravely and willingly, Torin. We should all hope to have such a noble end. I'm sure he did, oh selfless leader, Torin scoffed. Just like those helpless children of the Cull you led to the same fate. Children of the Cull? Hela thought in shock. Torin saw the confusion in her eyes and dug in deeper. Oh, I can see these young Culled haven't learned about your favorite method of attacking Rayans. How ironic. You leave 3 of Grom's greatest warriors behind to escape with 3 of your favorite weapons instead. Was it just in case you needed to blow holes in the outer wall? Or do you have some future plan to use these young, hapless bombs? Hela couldn't make sense of Torin's words. Her head began to spin. Scatter, she said, as if asking him to deny it. It couldn't be true. Godin gave himself to save us, didn't he? The questions began tumbling in her mind. Scatter cares for us. He's proven that over and over. He wouldn't turn a Thutan child into a bomb, would he? Scatter didn't answer Hela's tacit question. Instead, he just stared daggers at Torin, who continued his vicious barrage of accusations and inferences. You call yourself a servant of Grom's will, great fire starter. Don't make me vomit. You don't give a single thought to the lives of the stolen. All you want is war. That's all you've ever wanted. Everyone knows it to be true. I joined your party in the vain hope of keeping you to your word of attacking the capital while saving the Culled. But your lust for death had to include them too, didn't it? The entire circle was silent. The only sound was the crackling of the altar's fire while everyone awaited Scatter's defense to Torin's charges. Instead, the typical grin that framed his face was replaced with gritted teeth, the glow of his flame growing in intensity. Say something, Hela thought in silent desperation. It can't be true. Finally, Scatter broke the silence, but his voice was deeper than usual. He nearly spat the words as though they were venom coming from a murderous asp. You pathetic excuse for a warrior, Torin. You spineless imitation of a servant. What do you think? Just because you're overgrown and learned how to raise your flame, you can even begin to know the righteous will of Grom? He laughed with disgust before continuing. She is furious, seething, vehement. It rends my heart apart every moment in that city. Can't you feel it at all? Hiding among her beaten and abused children in the city of our enemy, you speak of only self-preservation while she rages. Bow low your head, you petulant failure. That you should question her will and profane it as if it were my own? I am the bringer of her just vengeance. She works through me. My actions are her actions. Torin's flame rose in direct response to Scatter's. He braced himself against every vicious word as though they were stones being hurled. Say it then, Torin shouted. Confess to your people how you filled innocent Thutan children with so much flame that they exploded in the streets of Epol just to satisfy your thirst for Rayan blood. Tell your beloved Avatar here and now what actually happened to Cull 51. How you murdered Thutan children younger than her to try to strike at the inner round. Say it! Confess and tell her that you do it again! Scatter's flame erupted with a shockwave that extinguished the fire from the altar behind him, leaving the town circle now illuminated by the radiant aura of his and Torin's unvanquished flames. Yes! Scatter screamed. Yes, I would, you miserable coward! The world is not enough to quench the flames of Almighty Grom's wrath! I would burn it all! Rayan, Thutan, all of it! Even my own bones to wreak vengeance for the unforgivable heresy of Soul! Hela's heart broke. Scatter's words were a blade stabbing deep into her soul. He's a madman. she thought, dumbstruck while tears flowed down her face. Torin raised both arms over his head and turned to face the crowd of horrified Theutons. You heard it here this night. From his own treacherous mouth, he has spilled the blood of his kin and the beloved stolen of Grom, and would do it again without a second thought. He then turned to face Adun. Watcher of Arunt, I request blessing to assail Scatter of Arunt in the right of Kuloth. Adun straightened. Torin of Alta, son of Grom, this is the second time you have invoked Kuloth against Scatter of Arunt. Would you accept the terrible consequences of such a rite? Scatter interrupted before Torin could respond. Someone should remind this arrogant giant what happened the last time he tried. A devilish smile appeared across his face. Or maybe just bring him a mirror in case he's forgotten. Torin gritted his teeth, casting shadowed relief upon the ghastly scar that covered the left side of his face. I accept them, he shouted, staring daggers at Scatter. So it is, declared Adun. Upon the night of Solace III, Torin of Alta shall be granted invocation of the sacred rites of Kuloth. He shall assail with the blessing of Adun, watcher of the unbroken binds of Arunt, Scatter of Arunt. Whosoever shall prevail shall be bequeathed the favor and blessing of Holy Grom. May her perfect will be manifest. Adun looked at Torin, then at Scatter, took 5 long steps back, as did everyone else watching, then shouted, Begin! Before Hela could decipher what Adun had just approved, a clash of red light erupted in front of her, knocking the benches of the altar over and tossing their occupants backward through the air. Hela tumbled across the ground, then scrambled to her feet searching for Senna. She found him already righting himself and crawling towards the porch of a nearby building to find cover. She ran to the same location and covered him with her body while turning to try to see what was happening behind them. Explosion after explosion erupted around the town circle as flashes of blinding red light betrayed the location of the 2 Theuton warriors who were locked in combat. She had never seen a Theuton fight another Theuton before. It was like trying to watch 2 speeding wasps the size of grown men careen into each other with the strength of 100 Rayans. 4 more enormous explosions led to a 5th that held both men locked in place. Torin had smashed Scatter's head through one of the ceremonial drums, holding him there by the throat with both monstrous hands. Hela gasped, but before she could follow the next movement, Scatter struck the back of Torin's right elbow, which was locked straight while choking him, breaking it backwards with a horrible crack. Torin shrieked, stumbling back 2 steps while cradling his arm, which dangled grotesquely in the wrong direction. Standing from the wreckage of the drum, Scatter picked up one of the mallets, spat blood on the ground, then snapped its padded head off. He shot toward Torin in a blur of red and rammed the broken end of its shaft under his other arm's armpit, piercing it out the top of his shoulder. Torin wailed in agony, falling to his back in front of the altar of origin, both arms mangled and useless. Scatter walked slowly toward the fallen giant, the intensity of his flame flaring, bent over, and lifted him by the neck off the ground with one hand. Hela leapt out from her cover and ran toward Scatter, grabbing him by his free hand to pull him back. Let him go! You've won! She screamed. This is insanity! Insanity? Scatter scoffed as he swept Hela to the ground. This is the wheel of Grom! He slammed Torin against the red-hot metal grating of the altar, holding him by his throat against it. His skin sizzled while his hair ignited to blood-curdling screams. Scatter, as if possessed, pulled the wooden shaft out of Torin's armpit and thrust it through his open mouth, ending his screaming as well as his life. He looked down on the now vacant eyes of his former comrade as Torin's body slumped, pinned to the altar. He spat on him and said, Grom's love. Musings of the Watchers. Of the many traditions in ancient Theuton culture, none is as dire as the rite of Kuloth. Being that all Thutan lives are precious, as each are children of Grom, it is a heinous sin for a Thutan to kill another Thutan. The only way to rightfully commit such an act is by the will of Grom. The right of Kuloth qualifies this unequivocally. If a Thutan kills another Thutan and claims it was Grom's will, a warrior of Grom may invoke the right to determine the claim's legitimacy. Though the winner of the right need not kill their adversary, if they do so, this is also deemed the will of Grom and shall not be held against them.